Welcome to the Detroit Sports Room, your home for Detroit sports news and information. Now, here's Jim.
Yes, that's me, and welcome to the Detroit Sports Room. And who's in the room today? Desmond Dukes. And I really appreciate you being here for the 2 hours that you've been here so far.
Not a problem, man.
We've had some technical difficulties and had to do this a couple of times, but really glad you're here because we're going to talk about something today that I find absolutely fascinating. I have been a fan most of my life, and I've seen a lot of things with this particular genre of sports entertainment, and that is pro wrestling. And Desmond Dukes has been a pro wrestler for 10 years. And we're going to hear some stories, and we're going to hear some fun stuff from the wrestling world. We have some other stuff to go into too. But before I do that, I want to welcome you to the show, Desmond Dukes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. Hello, everybody. I am Desmond Dukes. It's good to be here. It's good to see y'all.
Everybody that's in the room with us. Hey, it's getting pretty crowded. No, I'm kidding. You don't have enough chairs. No, I'm kidding. But no, seriously though, amazing. I love wrestling. I know it's fake. I don't care. It's fine with me. You know, we know we know a lot of other things are fake that are entertainment too. So I'm good with that. So what made you want to become a pro wrestler?
It's funny because I started off doing backyard wrestling. And I did that for a nice little bit, but I didn't do like a lot of like the hardcore stuff, like the barbed wire and the like. Although I did get hit with a light bulb once, and that didn't feel too good. But I told him like, just put me in regular matches. That's all I want to do. So I think my passion started there, and then I wanted to take it to that next level. So then some of the guys that actually did the backyard wrestling started doing pro wrestling. And they went up to Coldwater to Dan Severin's up in Coldwater for Michigan sports camps. Shout out to Dan. So cheap plug. But they took me up there, and I kind of got a feel for it. And then that was where I learned and trained and all that. And it's just been a blast. It's been an absolute blast.
Dan the Beast Severin, that is a name that I recall from a long time ago. He was a shoot fighter for a while, I'm drawing a blank, which I do a lot on the show, but he was in WWE for a little while, and he was in Dana White's organization, but I don't know if it was his at that point. And I'm drawing a blank on the name, which is crazy because it's big.
The UFC.
UFC. They got a KFC and the chicken. Wrong guy.
Just replace the K. That's all.
Yeah, see, there you go. I don't know why. I'm getting old, I think, and old timers moments and stuff. That's what this is. No, what you did backyard wrestling. You get into wrestling. You're in Dan Severin's school of wrestling. Do you have a little bit of shock and awe there, or that it was him, or a larger than life kind of figure? How is Dan? I mean, what is he like?
Dan is super cool. I remember the first time that I met him, and I was like, I was always curious because I had heard of him in UFC, and I've seen, like highlights and clips and things like that. And I remember seeing him a few times on WWE. So when I seen him in person, I'm like, man, he's as big as they said he is. But he's such a nice guy, really, really cool guy. When I was first learning, he would have me and a bunch of the other guys, we would put the ring together. And that was kind of an initiation of being a professional wrestler, is to learn the inner workings of a pro wrestling ring. And he would bring us lunch, and he would chit chat with us and help us out and everything. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. So you have a 10-year career. You have to have some stories, man. You've got to have some locker room stuff or some stories that you want to share. What was your favorite one?
Oh gosh, there were so many. I think probably my favorite one was when we were at Dan Severin's, because the Michigan sports camps is set up like when you walk in and then you go around into this little room, and there's a ring in there, and then inside of that room in the next room, there's like a workout equipment, and then across is the locker rooms and stuff. So we would get back there and they would have like the TV going so you could see the matches when they were happening during, you know, the little shows that we put on. But man, some of the guys back there, they do just some of the silliest stuff back there. Like one guy, I remember one guy had went back there and he had this sock. And I'm not going there for anybody that's thinking, he's got the sock thing. No, he would take the sock and he actually had like some shaving cream or something. I don't know. It was something in there. And so, you know, he would take that and he would literally like whack somebody in the face with it. And you could just see it like just spew out and land on your face. Hilarious. I never got hit with it, but it was pretty hilarious.
So what you're talking about, that there's some wrestling terms we're going to come across, and if you don't know some of those, we'll try to explain them to you. That's called a rib for anybody who doesn't know.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we get ribbed a lot. A lot of guys, especially the new guys, they get ribbed quite a bit.
So what, did anybody rib you?
When I first started, yeah.
What'd you get? What'd they do?
Oh, man. So, oh my gosh, there's so many different stories. I'm trying to think of a really, really good one. All right, so we're back there, we're getting changed, you know, getting ready for the show, because a lot of times he'll call out a meeting and he'll talk to us first, and then we head to the back and then we start getting changed. So I'm back there getting changed, and I noticed that I'm missing two, like both of my because I don't have wrestling, like actual wrestling boots. I just had wrestling shoes at the time because boots were like super expensive and I had no money.
Right.
So I had my wrestling shoes and they were missing. So I'm like, I know I packed them in this bag. So I'm looking everywhere. 5 minutes before I'm supposed to go out, I'm freaking out because I got no shoes whatsoever. And then one of the guys was like, hey, you might want to check over, you know, two bunks down. So I'm like, are you serious? So I go down there. No, they were hidden underneath one of the beds. You guys, they just got a big laugh out of it.
You would have been the new barefoot wrestler that night. Like Kamala, unfortunately. He just passed away, unfortunately, but so a little, you know, shout out to Kamala. Yeah, I actually got to see him and Andre the Giant live.
Oh, nice.
In a cage match in Muskegon, Michigan, LC Walker Arena, but way back when my dad took me in. It was absolutely amazing. Got to see Goldberg versus Paul White, or the Big Show, if you want to call him that. I think he was the Giant in WCW.
Yeah.
And he picked him up to that jackhammer. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I'm like, whoa. And he held him up there at the time. I was like, dang. Because he was a big dude. I mean, wasn't as big as he is now then. But, I mean, fat-wise or anything like that. But he was a big dude. He was a very big dude.
Yeah, he had from what I understood, he'd slimmed down a little bit to kind of get rid of some of that weight because of his health. Yep. So
yeah, he was looking a little muscular, and that's scary. That dude's huge.
Yeah, he got a little jacked. I was like, oh, okay.
I see you. So when you worked, there's things called a baby face, or it's a thing called the heel. And so that's the heel's the bad guy, the baby face is the good guy. Mm-hmm. What did you generally work as?
I generally worked as a baby face because as a heel, I was terrible. I think I tried a heel like twice, and I just came across as like, yeah, I'm not scared of this guy. And it doesn't help because I smile all the time.
Right.
So as a heel, I can't go out there and smile. So I didn't quite have that.
Well, you could do the evil grin, man.
I could do the evil grin, but then it just turned into a baby face grin. They just like, no, don't do that.
So you're working face most of the time, which I think, to be honest, I think that's harder. I know it sounds like it'd be the easier thing to do, but I don't think it is. I think that the faces get a lot more attention. as in like unwanted attention.
yeah, it's so much harder being a baby face. For some people it can come naturally because they can just let their natural persona come out and people can gravitate towards that. But being heel is so much better. Like I wish I could be able to do that, but I can't. But being a heel, like there could be people like out in the audience, and normally, in any other sport, you're just like, I can't make fun of these people. They're cool. They're nice. As a heel, you can make fun of the guy in the front row or the lady that's sitting, 3 seats back, or the kids stuffing their face with a hot dog. You could do anything. And they were just like all about it. And oh man, people like in the audience would get so upset. And it's the most hilarious thing watching that.
It is. When you get heat is people being angry at you.
Oh yeah.
So when you get heat, that's fun.
And yes,
there dangerous too sometimes.
there is a difference between good heat and go away heat. People don't get those confused. It's like, no, it's not confusing. Trust me. We'll
so what's the difference? What's the difference?
So regular heat is just basically people just hate your character. They just hate them. They want to throw stuff at them and all that for the love of that character, because they're doing such a great job.
Right. Go
away heat is when you do something or people see you as a person that they just genuinely just do not care about, like at all. They don't care for your character. They don't care for you as a person. Right. They just want you out of there.
They want you out. Like, I've heard some stories from Piper before he passed, and Cornette, because Jim Cornette, Roddy Piper, that man, they had people waiting for him in the parking lot.
Right.
They had actual people with guns down in Texas. I mean, world-class championship wrestling down there. There were some heels that talked about, how bad it was down there. That's what the Von Erichs down there. You asked the Freebirds how bad it was down there.
Right. I mean, you could take like the Sheik, take that for example.
Yeah.
Him and the Iron Sheik and even Nikolai Volkov at some point. As everybody would see them as the foreigners in pro wrestling. They're just playing these characters. They probably like live next door to you or something.
Right. The Sheik really has an accent though. I mean, he really does have a thick accent like that, but it's funny because I was reminded of George the Animal Steel. You remember him? Who used to eat the turnbuckles and all that stuff?
Oh yeah.
he was a gym teacher in Detroit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was a gym teacher, and he a very intelligent guy, but he goes out and plays his part, It's a big hairy like ogre type thing. Doesn't hardly speak,
And that plays too into, how good people can play an alternate character.
Yes.
And really make it stick, make it work.
How much of your character was you?
I would probably say 75% of me.
Yeah.
The other 25 is just me going like super wild and crazy. Because before I got into pro wrestling, I was like very shy and I would kind of keep to myself. And my very first match, oh my goodness, I was a nervous wreck. But I knew as soon as I went out there, like the nervousness started to go away a little bit. I was still like super nervous because I wanted to make sure the match was good.
Right.
But you kind of feel better knowing, okay, I'm out here now. It's not like you can just like be like, oh, I don't feel like I can't go out there. I'm too scared, and then back away. Once your music hits,
you're gone. You're done, man.
Like there's no staying in the back. You need to get out there.
Unless you're playing heel, you could go to the wing and try to get back to the dressing room.
Yeah, you just go back the other way or go around or whatever.
Play that. But if you're a face, man, once that music hits, your character's on. And is it hard to just turn it on like that? Or did that come natural for you?
It took a little bit, but it did come naturally later on. At first, it was kind of hard because I knew I had to, and I'll use something kind of like what they call the gorilla position, which is backstage kind of area. So a lot of us would get back there. Yeah. And before we, go out there and get ready, we would get ourselves hyped up. We would do, push-ups and sit-ups, or, we would stand back there, do a prayer, whatever, anything that could get us mentally prepared for what we're about to do. Because pro wrestling is like a dance.
Mhm.
You guys got to take care of each other out there. You're not going out there to really try and hurt and kill each other. You're just trying to entertain the people that's out there, all the fans and everybody. That's really what you want to do. And the last thing you want to do is put somebody in danger because you made, a very bad error, which has happened. It has happened, so.
Yeah. And tragically, like with Roddy Piper with Quick Draw McGraw. He killed him in the ring. Didn't mean to. I mean, it's not like, you go out there trying to injure anyone, but this is a physical sport.
Yeah.
And I want to make this very clear, because you had said this before in our 3 hours before, that wrestling where it's choreographed is not exactly fake.
Correct.
What I mean?
Yeah.
Because you do take what's called bumps, which means you're landing on your back, or you take those moves. Those moves do not feel comfortable.
Yeah. If especially if you're someone like me who likes to move fast in the ring, a lot of times you don't have time to react. Like, I think my worst injury that I had was a show we did in Owasso, and I got what they call a hot tag, which, one guy's in the ring, gets beat up a lot, and then tags his partner. He comes in and just starts,
cleaning house.
Other guys. Yeah, just beating everybody up. So I go in there, I'm cleaning house. I toss one guy to the outside, and me and him are out there battling. And then it happened so quickly that ring apron that's on the side where there's no padding there.
That's really hard.
It was metal. And I smacked my face on it.
Oh,
and I saw a quick flash of light, and I dropped to one knee, and everything just got kind of wonky for a second. So he throws me back in the ring. I still continued the match. I was going to continue the match, but afterwards, I remember hearing a kid out in the crowd after the match was over, and they were like, "That guy's bleeding." I'm like, "What? Who's bleeding?" And I'm like touching my forehead. And I had this big gash on my forehead. I ended up going to the hospital.
That's called getting red the hard way.
Right. So I ended up getting 11 stitches, and I ended up with a grade 1 concussion.
Ooh.
So, that was probably the worst injury I think I've had in a pro wrestling. Would I ever take it back? Absolutely not. It's just one of those life experiences that you learn to appreciate when you're in the ring, and, that love and appreciation for what you do in there for the fans and what you're willing to go through. So.
That's right. And yet, yes, the matches are predetermined, and yes, you kind of go through a match with your dance partner in the back, and you touch on the spots and stuff like that. But were you okay? You were the face. Did you call most of your matches, or or other people call the matches, depending on the experience level of the wrestling?
A lot of it has to do with the experience level, and a lot of it too, a lot of times whoever plays the heel is usually the one to lead the matches.
Okay.
So, but my matches are set up differently. Like when I first started, I'd have to go over each segment of the match, like every move, and try and memorize all of that. And that's so hard for me.
Yep.
So I had to force myself to get and train and get myself into that position, whereas if I'm okay, I only need to know the beginning, the middle, and the end. Everything else between, let's just go with it. Let's just wing it while we're out there. I love those, especially if somebody else that can do it just as good as me. That's huge. So it really helps the match because we can kind of play off of each other. I could say a move and he's like, "No, let's just do this." I'm like, "Okay, let's just go with it."
Who is your favorite person to work with?
Honestly, there's a wrestler named Rastakhan.
Okay.
And we both kind of came up in the ranks together. He had a little more experience than I did, but we kind of grew up. He was actually my first opponent, and that was a show we did in Lansing at the Temple Club. And he was my first match, and we've had several matches after that, but our chemistry was so good that even today, if we was to have a match today, we'd only need to call the beginning and the end. We wouldn't even need the middle. We just wink. We just because we know how to read each other. And I think when you get, opposite sides to really work together and make something work, especially with that chemistry, it looks beautiful in the ring.
Yes, it does. I mean, you got two good workers, and it comes off so good and so smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Another question: how many people have you met that other people would know? I mean, and stuff like this, because I know you wrestle kind of locally and stuff like that. But second part to that question is any stories about some of those people?
So there were a couple times where I haven't wrestled him, but I shared the same locker room as him, which was Sabu.
Oh, I love Sabu.
Sabu is one of those guys where he's just like, if you told him, hey, that was a good match, he'll be like, no, it wasn't.
Right. Perfectionist.
Yeah. So he loves to go out there and entertain, and he always puts his body on the line. And that's a true testament to his skill.
Is he as crazy as he puts off?
To be honest, I don't really know. Because in the locker room, he kind of just stays to himself.
Yeah.
So I kind of just give him,
man.
give him his space and everything. So I generally try to, focus on what I need to do. But, I just know inside the ring, he's crazy.
For those that don't know who Sabu is, Sabu was in the ECW with Rob Van Dam and a bunch of them. Very hardcore wrestler. He has so many scars. It's just crazy.
Oh yeah,
he's so marked up. He's just terrible, dude. But he plays this absolutely crazy, homicidal, suicidal, genocidal. That's what they call him, Sabu. And he's awesome. He's just absolutely awesome. He uses a chair like I've never seen anybody use a chair before.
Oh yeah, constantly. He knows how to use a chair. Like that chair is like his best friend or his tag team partner.
That's where Rob Van Dam got a lot of his stuff.
Mm-hmm. And that shows too. There's so much great talent, in the state of Michigan, especially, in and around the areas of Detroit. I mean, you look at Kevin Nash, he was from Detroit. Rob Van Dam from Battle Creek, Rhino's from Detroit. Sabu, these guys,
from Demolition is from Grand Rapids.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of great talent here in the state of Michigan, man, especially like around the Detroit area. So that's always a good thing to see. And especially if you get to work or even be around some of these guys, like, the kind of experience they got and what they can teach to you to make you better in the ring, not just in the ring, but outside the ring as well, whether it's like cutting a promo or something like that. Those guys are really, really good.
Let's talk about Gimmick for a second. I mean, this is basically what your persona is, and like the Undertaker, Matt, what's his real name? Mark Callaway.
Callaway, yeah.
So his real name is Mark, but they call him the Undertaker, and that's his gimmick. So that's his persona, whatever. I wanted to talk to you about what was your gimmick? What was your story?
Oh, so my first real gimmick that I think I had, I would come out. I would come out and I wear like khaki pants and no shirt. I got like my wristbands and my knee pads and stuff. And I would come out with two valets. Like I was like some dude that could get any woman or whatever.
Oh, okay. Ladies,
so I would come out, yeah. And I remember one of them, her name is Sable, or not Sable, but Sybil Starr. And she was later on, she ended up being my manager, but before she was just a valet.
Okay.
And she was really awesome. She's a super cool person. And we've actually shared a couple of matches together and everything. So awesome. that was fun. But that was like my real kind of taste into trying to be in the gimmick without actually cutting any promos.
Oh,
but
okay.
Yeah. So, but later on, I kind of shedded that part of the gimmick and kind of just stayed on my own. And I was mainly more focused on just putting on great matches. I'm not super great at promos, so I
was going to give you the floor and cut a promo, but I don't know, man. Now you say you're not good at them. I might not do that.
Yeah, you don't want to hear my promo. My promo's terrible. You're like, oh God, end this now. Somebody give me a shot of bleach.
Oh my God, that's terrible, but really funny. Shot of bleach. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I know we talked beforehand, so I know some things, and I wanted to bring this up. You also shared the locker room with the zombie princess, Jimmy Jacobs.
Jimmy Jacobs, yeah.
Was he in that gimmick when you were with him?
No. I think he just went by just his name, Jimmy Jacobs. Mm-hmm. And he was really good in the ring, and he was awesome to talk to because he would talk to some of the guys and kind of critique them and let them know. He's like, hey, I'm not trying to be, an a-hole or anything, but this is what you guys should have did with this. You should have moved here, done this, kind of help critique guys' matches. Mm-hmm. And he was really, really good at that.
He was doing some writing for WWE, but I think he's gone from there now.
Yeah, he's gone from there. He's
Joseph Park too, I think, did that.
Yeah, I can't remember where he went to.
Yeah,
I want to say he went to Ring of Honor.
Could have. That's where he went. That's where he was from. I mean, that's where he made the Zombie Princess gimmick.
Yeah, so I think he might have went back. I don't know if he's like back in the ring. He may be doing more backstage stuff. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's what he was doing anyway. I think he retired from actual wrestling, but he was really good. He was really, really good.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that he didn't get to do it on a bigger platform, maybe like WWE or something like that. Although, what's your stance on this? Because I think that a lot of the wrestlers before they go to WWE are so much better than they are when they get to WWE.
In a sense, yes. With that, they have more freedom.
Yes.
A lot of times that they can create their own characters, create their own merchandise if they want, pictures, anything like that. And they can, kind of invest in themselves to put themselves out there almost like a business.
I'll give you a name right now. Kevin Steen. Amazing in Ring of Honor. I seen one time where he picked up a mic and called his own match while he's beating his opponent in the head with it. It was great. I mean, he wins the Ring of Honor World Championship, and they flash back to him in the locker room, and he's eating this huge sheet cake. He's just defiant and funny, and it was great. He comes to NXT, and he does the same shtick, and I liked it, and it was great. Comes up to WWE, they let him do it for a little while, and then, as WWE always does, they relegate him to mid-card, like Nakamura, some of the other great ones that were independents at the time. The only one that seems to be they've given a chance is AJ Styles.
Yeah, and I think with the notoriety of AJ Styles, I mean, he didn't even have to go through NXT, even though he's gone on record saying that he wished he would have started there to kind of understand the WWE way of things. Yeah. But he got in there, and they just shot him like a rocket right onto the main roster. In fact, he debuted at the Royal Rumble.
Yep.
I want to say,
it was years ago. It was a while ago now.
Yeah, it was a while ago now.
I think it's one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like pound, one of the best wrestlers. In fact, he brought Brock Lesnar at the one Survivor Series where it was one champion versus champion.
Yeah. And
he put on the best match for Brock Lesnar. That was, to me, Brock Lesnar's best match, because him and AJ just knows how to work that ring.
He does,
like left and right. Even for his age now, he's like 40 something.
Yeah,
and he's still out there moving and going.
The shape that wrestlers are in now. I'm not trying to say that this is a weird thing, but there's got to be something new on the market. I watched Billy Gunn at 56 years old, and he looks like he's 30. I mean, I'm not kidding. Have you seen him in the Gunn show, which is his kid and him in AEW?
Yeah. He's jacked.
He is. I think he's 56 years old, if I'm not mistaken. He looks like he used to. In fact, I think he might look better than he used to.
Yeah,
I
he
don't know
even
if you
still
found-
moves. He still moves really good in the ring, but
does. It's crazy
you know,
how good he is.
and some
Yeah.
of it has to do too with just how well they take care of their bodies.
Yeah, I'm
So.
hoping so because I'm sensing a new drug or something that's out on the market or something like that. 'Cause
It's the new kind of juicing.
Because if there's something wrestlers are going to find out what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed over
Absolutely.
the past few years that people are 40 plus, pushing 50, even 50 some years old are out there and they look like they were 30. I'm like, okay, I want some of that. Whatever
They
that
found
is.
some fountain of youth of some
Fountain of
kind.
youth or something, yeah. So in your matches, did you ever have a point where you were afraid in a match? You know what I'm saying? You had somebody who was basically really inexperienced or something like that, and you just were like, I don't know about this.
I want to say no.
Good.
Everybody that I've worked with some people that were less experienced, but I took that as, like not as a hindrance for me, but I looked at it as an opportunity that this is how I can build them up. This is how I could get them some credibility and get them better in the ring. So a lot of times, even if I'm a baby face, I'll call the matches.
Right. If you have more experience. Yeah.
Exactly. Because it just works better for me. And like I said, I'm usually not good at calling, spot for spot on these matches, but with somebody who's inexperienced and that doesn't know, I'll go through the motions with them and I'll let them know, hey, this is what, we can do the next time. And, every once in a while, I'll work a couple of matches with them just to help get them, more
experienced.
Yeah.
Yeah. Help them.
And I enjoy that. I enjoy that a lot, training the new guys.
People underestimate how much of a brotherhood wrestling is.
It is. It's a huge brotherhood. And there's some people that, that can get kind of shady, wanting to get to the top and all that stuff. But for the majority of it, like everybody, especially like back in the locker room and everything, everybody's super cool, super nice, just having a good time, just enjoying themselves.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about, to be honest, is it's about raising someone else higher than yourself. And even in my environment with YouTube and stuff like that, that's what it's about. We help other people to get whatever, the numbers that they need or whatnot and how to do it and all that stuff. So it's kind of the same thing. What was your finishing move? I have to know.
Okay. So I had this finishing move called the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, no, he didn't go there.
I did too, and it's a crossbody DDT. So what I do is that I'd have them up, like I was getting ready, like on a crossbody, like how like their body would be laid across, and I would like have their head in one area and their legs up in the other, and I would toss them out almost like an F5, and then drop them on their head.
Drop them on the DDT. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh. How dangerous is a DDT?
If you're not careful, it can screw with especially your neck. It can screw it. And that's the biggest thing with pro wrestling that a lot of people don't understand. Your neck and your back takes the most abuse.
Yep.
Which, that's why a lot of us work out as much as we do, especially keeping the strength up in that neck and back, our legs, arms, everywhere, but you don't want to work out too hard, because then you work out too hard, then
strain the same stuff you're trying to help.
Exactly. So I usually work out my heaviest day. I'll work out 3 hours a day, and then my lighter workouts I'll probably do anywhere between an hour to 45 minutes.
Do you do that every day?
No, I don't. I do them sporadically. Like my 3-hour sessions, I'll do like 3 days. And then I'll do maybe a day to do a light workout. And then the rest is kind of I just relax, let the body recover.
How much is massages and recovery important to you as a pro wrestler?
Oh, it's very important, because you want to make sure that your body is well rested and ready to go for the next day, especially if you're getting ready. Like, one time I actually went and got, some chiropractics done before a match and then again after the match. Yep. So, it's good to have that kind of thing. Yeah, made a few adjustments. get myself right. But yeah, that neck area the worst because the head and the back takes the most abuse. So we really try to take care of those as best we can.
Of course, man, because that's the key to everything is your body in wrestling. And those that have longevity have had to take care of it, over a long period of time.
Yeah, and that's why with chair, like especially chair shots, people used to be able to take. I mean, in the independent scene, I'm sure some of them still take those. I don't I don't mind taking a chair shot, but I won't take a direct chair shot because, doctors and scientific studies and all of that have proven that if you take too many chair shots to the head, it's going to mess with your spine, even if it doesn't do anything, as far as brain activity goes. Every time you take a chair shot, you're sending that shock to the back of your neck. And so then your spine takes damage, and then you have like ruptured discs, your spinal column gets all messed up, and it
hurts me just thinking about that.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things that we've learned. That's why when you see like people will be like, oh, that's fake, he got his hand up. Well, yeah, because he doesn't want to get hurt. He doesn't want a concussion or anything like that.
You see that chair shot with Cody?
I did. I was actually surprised he took that shot.
I don't think he was thinking it was going to be that kind of a shot.
I don't think he was either. But man, when Spears hit him with that, I was just like, ooh, that was rough.
That was
he sold it good.
I don't know. He was legit cut open.
Yeah, he got the wind knocked out of him as far as like mentally.
I'm gonna ask you this as a wrestler. I don't know what your take is gonna be. You've talked about chair shots and stuff, and I want to talk a little bit about CTE, maybe Chris Benoit, the incident that happened with him, and for those who don't know, Chris Benoit was a professional wrestler, and he apparently killed his family, his wife, his child, and committed suicide after that. Everybody that knows him thinks that this is not even something within his wheelhouse, nothing like that. They did an autopsy and found he had CTE, and he had a brain of a pretty old man, and things like that. Because of those chair shots and things that happen in pro wrestling world, what do you think about that whole situation? I mean, do you have thoughts on it? Do you have, seen other wrestlers kind of going through some, after a headshot, chair shot, if I could say it, going through that type of concussion thing, and what are your thoughts on that in the business?
So I haven't seen that too often, but it is a real and very scary thing, and especially doing the things that we do. A lot of us, especially with him being in the WWE, there's no off season. So it's not like he actually had time to recover. He's on the road over 300 days a year, and in the time that he's off, he's with his family, and then it's right back on the road again. So I think a lot of that has to do with that, how much abuse, because if you've watched any Chris Benoit matches, every match he goes all out. And it's like he just doesn't care. Yeah, his flying headbutts and everything. And so that played a factor into the damage that was going on in his brain.
Yeah.
And, I mean, what he did with his family was extremely tragic, and it should have never happened. And
I agree.
Thankfully, his oldest son wasn't there to see it. He was actually I believe he was with a relative, his aunt. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
So he was nowhere near that, but it sucks for him because now he has to carry that burden of what his father did. And, people try to ridicule him. He actually was talking about wanting to take on his dad's persona.
Yes.
And how a lot of people are like, you don't want to do that.
Right.
But I think he wants to do it in a way of honoring his dad. I don't think he'll go to the extreme of what his dad did, but I think there is a chance that he could do it and really honor his dad's legacy as far as what he did in the ring. What he did in the ring was fantastic.
I know.
I still to this day praise his work.
Yeah, me too. That's what's so sad about this situation. He was one of my favorite wrestlers of all.
Yeah.
Him, Dean Malenko, the guys that could really, really wrestle, really chain wrestle. People
Mm-hmm.
maybe don't understand the term, but being able to go hold for hold with somebody, and he was one of the best, and was somebody that I just admired as a little pit bull, and that type of persona that he had. And it's so sad that we can't talk about him in that light anymore, because
Yeah.
say the name, it's always, oh, we shouldn't talk about him because of the things that happened in the end, and I'm like, no, I mean, what happened to all the good times? What happened to all the stuff all the work that he did, and all the stuff that he brought? And when we get to the end, was that even him? Was that even that person anymore?
Right. Because you would think that, his brain had disintegrated so badly. It's almost like he probably didn't even know who he was.
Right.
So, it was such a sad situation, and the tragedy and the even like the case itself baffled everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how could this happen?
Yeah.
So we already know the WWE is not going to put him in the Hall of Fame. I don't think he'll ever get in the Hall of Fame.
No.
And it took this tragedy to basically overshadow everything that he's accomplished in his career that was good. And I think that's such a bad thing. But that's, that's kind of the world we live in right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's what's so hard about this whole situation is that, it did bring awareness, though.
It did.
I mean, it brought awareness to what you should take and what you shouldn't take. You know what I'm saying? Chair shots and different things that could affect you later. Do you feel any effects from a 10-year career in wrestling today?
I do. A lot of like back pain, aches a lot of times. I got a couple of bum knees. It's just being a pro wrestler, and that's what the thing that a lot of people don't get. Being a pro wrestler, you're putting a lot of wear and tear on your body. I mean, a lot. Think about, you just bought a brand new car, and you start to you take good care of it, but after a while, you run it like a muscle car, and it's just like a little sedan or something.
Right,
and you drive it like a muscle car.
It's a Prius.
Yeah, like my Prius is not a Dodge Charger. It's just not. So, but you put a lot of wear and tear on it, and then especially if you're not able to take care of it, it's going to wear down over time.
Absolutely. And it is so hard, doing what you do, doing what you guys do, and getting the moniker that it's fake. Does that really bother you when
it did at first? I mean, it really bothered me at first, but over the years, I've come to understand that a lot of people are coming from a place of not understanding, not taking the time. You can dislike pro wrestling. I have no problem with you disliking it, but at least if you're going to dislike it, have an understanding of what it is. I tell people all the time, if you think it's so fake, please come in the ring and take a bump. Come in the ring and do these moves, do them in sequence and do them the correct way, because no person on the history of this planet will be able to do it right off the bat. It's just impossible. Right. You'd literally have to, we have this set that we start a lot of times in pro wrestling that I'm sure you've seen before, which we like to call an international, because it's used all over the world, which is, you go into a collar elbow tie up, right into a headlock, and then, back into, a hammer lock, and then shoulder tackle.
Yep.
Drop down, leapfrog, which is just jumping straight up in the air. And then you can either, you can do a couple of arm drags, or an arm drag, back elbow, hip toss. There's a lot of those things. So if you tell me that you can do that without anybody teaching you, it's not going to happen, because you're going to do it all wrong. So
Absolutely.
we're just like any other sport. It's a contact physical thing between competitors. It's very competitive.
Yes.
You have to train for it, and above all else, for the most part, you travel. So
when do you get a break? That's the thing. If you're on a major, like a WWE, something like that, and you're maybe a title holder or something like that, it's just so much responsibility on your shoulders to be able to carry that portion of the company. I mean, to be honest, you can't miss it. You can't miss a show.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be sick. You can't. I mean, there's so many things you really can't do because you're the guy.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, you're in that ring probably more than likely 5 days a week, doing house shows and then live televised events. And then on your days off, the majority of the time, if not one, maybe a day and a half of it, you're doing interviews, you're doing specials, you're doing promo work for different companies, you're doing commercials, doing all kinds of stuff. And then the little bit that you have with your family, it's not a lot at all. They're kind of put on the back burner a little bit.
Yep.
And that's the one thing that's I wish there was a way that WWE can find a way to be like, okay, we're going to push these wrestlers this time.
Yep.
And then
this season.
Yep. And then next season we'll bring in a new group of guys that we want to move up into the ranks. So that way, it gives people a chance to kind of be home with their families and stuff. I think in the sense of COVID right now, I think it's really kind of a blessing in disguise, because now a lot of them will do a bunch of taped shows and then they'll have that extra time off that they can be with their families, kind of recuperate their bodies and everything, because they're not constantly on the go.
I think the companies that are giving these wrestlers like Sting or Brock Lesnar these different like part-time deals, I'm not sure that shouldn't be the norm on a lot of wrestlers, because you can oversaturate yourself. Like if you see, I mean, these matches like Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, over and over and over again. I mean, Seth Rollins at this point with, name a wrestler was Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens for a while. But it just seems like it's the same match over and over and over again, and you get overexposed.
And that's WWE's one of their biggest downfalls, is that they overexpose people. They have to be on every show at almost every segment, having a match every single night. And I understand it, but I don't like it. I think that was one of the things that I loved about NXT. They never exposed Nakamura. He would only come out when it was needed.
Yep.
And it kept those characters special.
It keeps it fresh.
Yes, exactly.
Because it goes back to the territory days where you'd have Andre the Giant. And Andre the Giant, he was all over the country, all over the world. And so he would go to a promotion. He'd be there for a month or so, fight the big champion, whatever, put him over, or, or win and make him look really good, whatever. But yet then he would go away. And when someone goes away and comes back, it's like, oh my God, look who's here.
Yeah. And that's a good thing, because you're not only not overexposing those characters, you're keeping them special, and the people that you want to potentially, build them up, that's what you can do during that time while they're not there. Like, that was the formula that worked so well in NXT. I don't have to see it's great that I get to see them, but they don't feel overexposed at all, because they proportionized their segments of when they were coming in. Yeah, they weren't on every single show, and I really, really enjoyed that.
I did too, and I think their programs were better. I think the matches are better. I think it's more of a style of Ring of Honor versus the WWE stuff, and I like that type of wrestling better. It's just my personal preference. But I was going to ask you this: did you ever win a championship in your tenure?
I did once. It was for AWWL, Big Time Wrestling, and I was the AWWL television champion.
Awesome.
So that was kind of, and it was funny too, because it was kind of just sprung on me. I was like, oh, okay. I'm the champ, okay.
They thought you were ready, though.
But
it's a big responsibility.
It is. And that's one of the things that I always cherished about having matches with people, because there could be matches where I know I'm supposed to lose, but my job is to make sure you think I'm going to win.
Absolutely.
And if I go out there knowing I'm going to lose and be like if take the NBA, if the Supersonics and the Portland Trailblazers were playing each other right now and said, okay, Portland's winning, you guys are losing, so they can move on to the playoffs. How do you think that's going to feel to them? They're not going to want to do that.
Exactly.
In pro wrestling, it's different.
Yeah, because you put the other person over to help their career out.
Yeah, and
to help the company.
And again, it goes back to treating it like a dance.
Yep.
You know, two dance partners making magic out there.
Absolutely.
helping people, helping them get over and having the crowd get behind them.
And how do you get over? I mean, did you get over real good over there? And how did you get that? How did you get that?
I did as a baby face, how I got over. I think it was just the way I was in the ring. I was very energetic. I was excited, every time I went out there. Then afterwards I would go out and high five kids and, do all the fun stuff and hug the grandmas and everything else, and that was, even though it's harder to be a baby face, I love being a baby face. Absolutely loved it, just because I can be out there in the crowd and shake hands and everything, because I like interacting with people. I love interacting with people.
Yeah, see, that's a good thing. You're out there kissing babies, shaking hands.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Kissing hands and shaking babies if you're a heel.
That's the heel version.
Yeah, you can't say that. I'm gonna bring up a couple more things anyway, but one is kayfabe. It's a term that comes out of Japan, and it's basically protecting the business or protecting the aura of the business, I guess. When I go to a movie, I want to see like Tom Hiddleston, who plays Loki. I don't care about Tom. I don't care about Tom Hiddleston's personal life or whatever. I just want to see Loki. I just want to get engrossed in the character.
Right.
And I think in wrestling, where they used to a long time ago, the heels and faces would not be in the same bar together. They wouldn't be in the same restaurants and all this stuff. But it just preserved the illusion. And now we know that it's not, that it's predetermined. I think that a lot of times that the wrestlers nowadays don't think that that's important. But I still think it is. Where do you stand on kayfabe?
So I think with kayfabe, I really, really like the fact that, in some areas kayfabe still exists, because it really keeps that character special. For example, Matt Hardy with his broken gimmick.
Oh, I love that.
He would go everywhere. He'd probably be on the phone talking to like a bill collector or a telemarketer as his broken self.
Could you imagine that? That would be awesome. I wish I could do a Matt
That
Hardy
would be absolutely hilarious.
Great.
I owe this much.
Delete. Matt Hardy and Comcast. No, I'm just kidding. Or some cable company or something.
Right. But that's what kept those characters special, and that's what made people love those characters, is because they could be those characters, like even outside of the ring, they can be those characters. At home, they're probably, being themselves, but when they're out in public, they are that persona. And that's why a lot of those characters get over. And I think that's what's missing out of kayfabe today, is that those special characters with those, always holds that special place in people's hearts because of who they are, whether they're a face or a heel. They've made you remember them by the time you left that area or they left that area.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a testament to, their craft and how hard they work to emulate and build who they are going to be.
I think that one of the guys that I think that has done that over his whole career is Mark Callaway, or The Undertaker. He never would do an interview outside of, I mean, he just did that whole big interview, I remember, and it was so cool to see him out of character, because you wouldn't see that, you just wouldn't see it. And so it was a really good documentary. I think it's called Last Ride, I believe. That's what it's called. And it was amazing, because the guy is phenomenal and always has been that guy that, they could rely on, and the guy that, was, the Undertaker. I mean, just that's who he is, to everybody that watched him.
And fun fact, he actually did an interview before that with I can't think of the guy's name, but the guy is a preacher, and he did an interview. Yeah, he did an interview with the Undertaker.
Oh wow!
And it was a really, really cool interview. I think it went on for like an hour, but it was a really cool interview. And that was like the first thing. Yeah, it should be on YouTube. Yeah, I'll look for it and I'll send it to you. But it was a really fascinating interview.
But we've been talking for so long, and I love the topic because I know about it, and I know that you've been through it, and it's an inside look at what professional wrestling is. And I think that is such a unique topic when you can go inside the business instead of just commenting on what you think about today's product and all that stuff.
Right.
That's going to be my last question. I'm going to start with WWE. And what do you think about the WWE product right now? And how would you improve it if you had the booking pen here and had some vision with it?
Oh man, that's the big $1 million question right there. What?
Maybe we need Ted DiBiase for that.
Everybody has a price.
$1 million man.
From the product standpoint, it's still a really good product, but the booking and the storyline that's being told are not very good at all. Right. I mean, we touched on that. You touched on that earlier. You get the same matches over and over again. Yep. There's logic gaps all over the place where you see a character that did one thing 2 weeks ago, and then they mess around and then do something completely different now. And it's like, that made no sense to where the story was going. You got what we call 50-50 booking, which you'll win a match, then you'll lose a match. Then you'll win a match, and then you'll lose 2 more matches. Then you'll win 3 more matches and win. It's like, come on. There's no consistency.
50-50 booking. I really do. And I think it doesn't help anybody. You're trying to get somebody over, you want to push them. But unfortunately, WWE is all stars and there's no enhancement talent, which I think is something that, for me, is really missing in wrestling today.
Especially for like new and up and coming talent that you really want to push as a star. Mm-hmm. Having good enhancement talent. I'm not talking about enhancement talent that you can beat in like 20 seconds. That's not showing me anything.
Right. Like the local kids or something like that. I'm talking about Iron Mike Sharp and Barry Horowitz. Remember the guy that had the hand on his back? He pat himself on the back all the time. People that actually got to win every once in a while.
Yeah. And that's the thing that at the time that I really loved about NXT is that when they were really trying to promote and hype up Aleister Black, and they were bringing in a couple of Ring of Honor guys that we know from the Undisputed Era of Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. He had singles matches with each one of them.
Yes,
now, at the time, I didn't know who they were.
Oh, I did.
So then when I seen them, in action, I'm like, these guys are great.
Yep.
So, and Aleister Black, even though he was going to be the big star on NXT, basically the new kids coming in, and they're not rookies by any stretch of the imagination. These guys are very experienced.
Yes.
But bringing them in, not so much as enhancement talent, but more like enhancing each other.
Yep.
I think that was one of the things that I loved about what NXT did with that, because both of those matches that Aleister Black had with them made me a fan of them.
Yes. And I think this is what used to be my favorite wrestling promotion is Ring of Honor. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because what they would do is they would bring in new guys, and they would have a whole tournament and stuff with the new guys. Mm-hmm. And then they would bring those guys as enhancement talents at first. And then they would grow their character and grow them. Like Right Leg Riley was his name for a long time before he was, Kyle O'Reilly, part of Red Dragon, which was a tag team with Bobby Fish over there, tag team champions in Japan but they weren't anything. Adam Cole, same thing. They brought him on with Kyle O'Reilly as a tag team at first. And so, then they would lose to the Briscoes or some of the other people that were there, and they would get the Briscoes over, but you would also get them over.
Exactly.
It is such a good way to book, and I think it's a lost art. I really do.
It is. It is definitely a lost art, and that's something that I wish we could go back to.
Me too.
But now they just grab the, not trying to make fun of any of the enhancement talent, but it's like you grab the local guy from 7-Eleven and then throw him in with Braun Strowman so you can show how dominant Braun Strowman is. It's not helping the other guy at all, except showing how well
you're not bringing him up. So if you were bringing, my booking would be, if I would bring up a guy. NXT is hurting them in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Let me explain. So you can't bring a new guy in that nobody knows, or they may know from a different, organization or something like that. That's a lesser talent or a brand new guy, and bring him in as an enhancement talent and then develop him like Ring of Honor can, because you have NXT as the training ground.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, because of that, NXT becomes the better product. And then when they're going up to WWE, they're already established. So now they're going against the top, face or heel, or they're having matches, but with big time talent, but they're big time talent as well. So if you do the 50-50 booking, like you're talking about, everyone loses the enhancement talent, which you're going to create a star in that enhancement guy. And then, the guy that's going to put them over is still going to look great. You know what I mean? As the other guy gets built. You can't do that when you're already doing it in NXT. So it makes the WWE product look terrible.
Yeah. And that's, for me, how I would book someone coming in. First off, I would start off with kind of, especially if it's somebody that, that's going to start off kind of being enhancement talent, but is going to become a star later.
Yep.
I would definitely do what they used to, which was show some backstory type promos.
Yep.
Leading up to them in their debut, kind of like what they did with like Asuka.
Yes.
And some other talents like that. You would kind of get a little bit of a backstory about them for people that don't know. And then you'll start to get invested, because those stories have to grab you. If those stories don't grab you, by the time they hit the ring, you already don't care.
The funny thing is, I almost think, just let me say this and see what you think about it. I would come there. I would let a new guy, say it's Kyle O'Reilly when he was really young, like a 20-year-old kid or something. I would let him come in under his name, just his name, barely any gimmick, nothing. And then let him get over with his personality and stuff like that. Therefore, when he does either turn heel and become this really, good wrestler and stuff like this later, that the gimmick follows, not starts. You know what I mean?
Right.
That way he can be enhancement talent, and you just keep seeing him over and over and over. As you see him, you develop a story with him, and he starts to become this person, and then he starts to become this gimmick, and then he could turn to the dark side or something and just become this evil guy and turn on his partner or something like this, and then create his own thing. And now all of a sudden you've seen him over and over and over getting his butt kicked over and over and over. And all of a sudden he's starting to win, and you're starting to get invested in this character. Like, wow, this guy's really grown. I've seen him from start to finish. And I think that is almost a better investment by the fan, because they've seen him lose all the time. Right. So it's not like two guys from Portland, right? or something.
Right.
And you never see that guy again. It's a guy that you put out there over and over again, and you're trying to get him over as the underdog is basically what you do. Yeah. And then when he gets to the point where he's ready and more developed, then you can start pushing him as the underdog and maybe a face. And then when you turn him heel, it's just an amazing, type of thing. Or you could go the other way and have him be a heel and turn him face or something. Make a big turn and make him into a new character, and there's where you put your gimmick in. What do you think about that?
That's not bad. You definitely are onto something. You just want to, be careful of number one, making sure that they understand what kind of personality they're going to portray. Because if it's one that even they may say, I want to do this character, and it's not getting over because they're not doing the character right, or they didn't do enough research. For a lot of people that don't understand, a lot of them, before they cut promos, they'll research.
But that's the beauty of this, because they're not really anything to begin with.
Right.
You can mold them into whatever you want, or, you know, tell a story and then see where that goes and see what they're good at and see what they're bad at and all that other stuff. And you know how to work with them, and their story kind of develops as they go organically.
That's a good, and that's the key thing. That's the key thing. What you said right there is being organic, because right now it's so overproduced, and it feels so quote unquote scripted. You know, when they cut promos or they say certain things, you know, that you're like, this character would never really say that. You know, I think that's one of the things you have to touch on, is making sure that it comes across as genuine versus something that's forced.
Yeah, because there's so much forced.
It really is.
Okay, so I have to make an announcement, because I'm a Lions podcaster, so I have to do. Jay Sean Cornell has an Achilles tear, and so he will be out for the year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we knew it was a bad injury, and I wanted to get to Lions stuff. But we've been on for an hour and 5 minutes, so we're going to have you back, Desmond. We're going to have you back, and we're going to talk a little bit of Lions and some other stuff later. We'll set a date and time for that. Absolutely. Man, I appreciate you, man. This was so much fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed this.
What a good show. It's something different for everybody. If you could like the video and do a thumbs up thing, I think that's what it is, and then hit the bell icon. Yeah, and subscribe to the channel. Really would appreciate it, man. And I appreciate you, Desmond. And if you want to tell anybody about what you're doing right now, I'll give you the floor, and you can go ahead and say whatever you want.
Yep. So me and my brother, Damar, we're doing our podcast, Platform Gamer Podcast, which you can also find on YouTube. You can also join us on Facebook, like us on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Platform Gamer P1. And yeah, we talk about gaming, everything revolving around gaming news, rumors, reviews, that sort of thing. And then I also have my own podcast that I just recently started doing, talking about the XFL, called XFL Talk. So we talk about anything and everything going on with the XFL, which I actually plan on doing an episode later today, because I've got some news that I want to touch on.
Ooh, so breaking news.
Yeah, I got some breaking news. So that'll be up later today. But you can also just go to YouTube at Desmond Dukes and subscribe to my channel. Turn on that bell for all notifications, and smash that like button if you enjoy what you're seeing.
We're gonna have that up there for you at the top of the screen. You should be seeing that right now, and you should be seeing a little card that you can just click on that and go right to Desmond's channel and subscribe. If you don't, he will hunt you down and find you. No, I'm just kidding. You don't want that. Oh, we had so much fun.
Thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, I appreciate you coming. And it was a lot of technical difficulties, and I'm really sorry about all that.
Yeah, hey, we got it figured out. We went on without a hit. Second time's the charm.
That's right. Third, fourth, fifth, whatever it was. Right. To be honest, we had more discussion before than we did on the show. Anyways, everybody, thank you for listening, and we're out.